Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast for Complete and Box video games. I'm your host, Spencer, and today, in episode 28, I'm Batman. And also, Parker is also Batman.
Yes.
Where is she? Where's the trigger? So listen, yeah, we're doing a game review number 7. Can you believe it's been 7 game reviews?
Unreal.
I can't, this is absurd.
Have I been here for every one?
You've been here for every, it's like we play video games.
I know, eventually you're going to have somebody else on, and I'm going to be pretty sad. But for now, I'll just enjoy the moment.
Maybe the new Madden comes out, and I'll be like, guess I can't have Parker. You know, this Madden has great Hail Marys.
I give it a 0 out of 10, because I hate this game.
I mean, I throw a Hail Mary every time, and I throw interceptions. 2 out of 10, because I'm feeling nice. But today, we have a special for you, because we're starting up. We're pretty much done with Resident Evil for right now. And we're moving over to Batman. And I feel like today, we got to get that out of our system, because every time I say, Batman, I can't say it like that, but I got to get it out of my system. So, we're talking Batman Arkham Asylum.
Right.
Now, before we get into this, let's first say that this was the PS4 remaster, which is the game of the year, technically, has all that different stuff on it.
Right.
One other thing important to note is I've played through the entire series besides Origins before this. Although this is Parker's
on the original thing.
On the original, yes. And
right, and I didn't. I had Asylum, and I played it. I think I played like the first 5 minutes way back on like Xbox 360, and then like for whatever reason I didn't have it anymore, and so I didn't continue playing it. Not out of not interest, just like work or something, and I just got busy. So this is my first time actually really playing through it.
So what we're going to try to do this time around is I'm going to try to view it as we always do, as its own thing. So although I've played City and Arkham Knight, and honestly with the Batman games, and we'll find this out as we go along, they're more of a don't reinvent the wheel kind of thing, because spoilers, the game's pretty fun. So I'm going to try to look at it just as Asylum, whereas obviously Parker will be easily able to do that, because
I haven't played it.
We wanted to talk about this one before he continues on to City for that one.
Right.
So in general, as we talk about every time, our rating system is from 0 to 10. For us, a 5 is perfectly average. Does not mean it's bad. It just means it would just be average compared to any random game you pick out there. Mm-hmm. Something like a 7 would be a pretty gosh darn good game, and an 8 would be absolutely great. And I don't believe we've gotten to the point where we've given anything a 9 yet. I think the highest we've given so far is maybe like a high 7 overall, which again, anything in the 7s is a great game. So if we say, oh, the story for this is an 8, that's a very good story.
Yeah. We've given some... I gave at least one Division a 10. So far, I gave Doom gameplay 10 out of 10. That was the only one I reached 10 on.
The highest grade that we've given for anything so far would be Doom and Life is Strange. Parker gave an 8.3, and I gave an 8 overall to Life is Strange. So technically, in our universe, Life is Strange is the greatest game of all time.
Wait, Doom's not better than Life is Strange?
I gave it a 7.9. You gave it an 8.3 for Doom, and I gave it an 8. And you get an 8.3. So technically, Life is Strange is the greatest game of all time in our universe. Anyway, so that's how we go about it. And again, when we view these games, obviously, Life is Strange, is it as good of a game as like a Doom or a Batman? No, but it's the experience we look at overall.
Exactly.
So we work this out into 6 different categories. We have story, gameplay, we have sound, which includes voice acting, music, all that kind of stuff. We have graphics and the atmosphere that the graphics show. Mm-hmm. We have fun factor and replayability. And at the end, we take all the scores, divide them by 6, and there you have the aggregate score. So, let's start right into this. The story. So, Batman Arkham Asylum, I will say, first of all, before we go into any story details, Batman is by far my favorite superhero. And it's not even close.
Yeah, like, very, very popular opinion.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry that I like Invincible. I don't even whatever. I like this indie comic that came up for 4 comics in 1985. No, but like Batman, as far as the big guys are concerned, by far my favorite. I mean,
it's a good one to get behind. He's a great character, very complex, very interesting. Like for a character that is on the surface seemingly simple. Like, it's just like a guy who doesn't have powers, whose parents died, and he's trying to avenge them. Like, seemingly, like, you would be like, okay, how much of that story can you tell? And it's like, you keep telling it, and it's great. Like, I mean, like, you would think Superman would be a more complex character, considering he's, like, from an alien, like, from another world, like, he's not human, he doesn't belong here, all this stuff. And, like, there have been some interesting stories, but not as many as how many awesome Batman stories there are. I mean, he's just a great character.
And, I think what draws me into it is all the... Batman's great. I have no problem with Batman, but it's all the supporting characters.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool supporting characters.
Again,
absolutely.
I'm absolutely a pleb when it comes to, like, comics in general, so I only know, like, the very surface stuff.
Right.
But if you were like, oh, name your top 10 villains, I mean, the Batman series would have to have, like, 5 of the top 10. You cannot make a top 10 list without, like, the Joker. Right. Absolutely.
Joker is gonna top most villain lists, even across all comics. Like, like, I've seen many a list, including DC, Marvel, Image, everything, just straight up villains of all time. Sometimes even just villains, period, like, in any like medium, be it books, movies, everything, and Joker gets up near the top of the list because he's just an excellent villain.
So if you just had Joker alone, you'd be like, wow, that's an excellent cast, but then you have, like, all these other great ones. And the thing that I love about the Arkham series, and Arkham Asylum, again, we're viewing this on its own, still overall does the smallest job of this. It only gets bigger, is you have all these different characters running rampant at the same time.
Right.
You have, so let's start into the story a little bit. So essentially the story starts in media ray. It means in the middle of the action.
Right.
We got to throw a little bit of culture in here to our video game review. And you have captured Joker. They don't really tell you why. You just, assume you
I mean, it's like most Batman stories start with something like that because it's like, of course, he's constantly fighting these guys. So, like, you can start where it's like, hey, I've caught this guy, because it's like, seemingly they're always breaking out and getting caught.
So
that's the story.
You're taking Joker. Oh, this opening is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
You're taking Joker into Arkham Asylum, which is the big penitentiary where they have literally all the bad guys that are not currently caught.
Yep.
And you're taking him into there, and he's all strapped up, and he's still
he's still going nuts. I mean, luckily, like it's like he's just like like he's straight up normal Joker, where he's like making fun of you and talking about everything, and like it's excellent.
And obviously, because characters are a big part of story, before we even go any further, Joker is amazing in this entire series and in this game.
Right.
The fact that in the beginning that you're able to like stand literally next to him, and you can like even zoom in and see him like looking around and looking at you.
Absolutely.
And they just whoever wrote it just did a great job.
It is actually a comic book writer that was tasked. He's written a couple of different series, and he was given the task of writing an original story for the video game. So it's not based on anything. It wasn't previously a story that they adapted and whatever. He just was like, I'm writing a Batman comic basically, but instead of drawing it, we're just going to put it in a video game. So you could definitely feel that because it's got that feel of like a Batman story.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge key. It feels... I've only read the big old Batman stories, the ones that are like, oh, you need to read The Killing Joke and whatever. But it just feels like Batman through and through.
Oh,
now,
absolutely.
The first question for someone who's not into the series, and this is a very valid question, would be, okay, Batman caught Joker. Why doesn't he kill him? And that's the big thing.
I mean, if you're not interested in Batman, then you might not have read any of that. But like that is the main like thing for all Batman stories is just Batman's decision to not go cross the line into Punisher territory and like start killing people. He has made that decision.
He will not kill under any circumstance. Right. No matter if Joker could stand there after having killed 50 people with his bare hands, and he will not kill.
Right.
He beats people up, and you beat people up in this game, but he absolutely will not kill, and that comes to play in the game many times, as it should, because you capture a character or whatever, but the best you can do is tie him up and everything. So Joker obviously escapes. He has a very elaborate plan, which is just done beautifully. You're kind of walking. It's almost like a cutscene, but you're able to walk, and you see him going. You go deeper and deeper into Arkham until you get to like an intensive treatment.
Right.
And eventually, he breaks out because he's the Joker and he has all this planned. Clearly he wanted to get captured here.
Right. Yeah, they make a reference to, like, he was easy to catch this time. And it's like, well, he clearly wanted to be caught.
And then the crap hits the fan. Right. He lets everybody out of their cells, which goes from the petty thugs, which is a majority of who you fight in this game are, like, petty thugs, and eventually, down the line, people in the mental ward. Right. Just your average no-name thugs.
And the petty thugs... They actually have a little bit of reference because Arkham Asylum wouldn't necessarily have petty thugs there, but what happened was Blackgate facilities is like under construction or something, so they had transferred some inmates from like regular prison into this place. Obviously, also orchestrated by the Joker in some way to make sure that his guys get there or whatever. So like. Then they're all there, so that adds more people there than is normally there, and more like with it people, like because like the crazy people are crazy. Majority of people at Arkham, besides the supervillains, are just insane. Like they're not like, oh, let's come up with a plan. Like they're all just like whatever. Whereas this was like a group of people where you could be like, look, if you help me, you might make some money, or you might get something out of it, and you could reason with them, and they go, okay, sounds good, let's beat up Batman,
Yeah, and that comes into play instantly because, like, literally 5 minutes into the game, everybody is released, everybody's after you, and it's clear that Joker had everything, because he's Joker, had it planned out, so, like, right away, you'll be going around and you'll hear these thugs talking in the next room, and they'll be like, the boss, clearly Joker, says the Bats is coming through, and this is what we got to do, and whatever. And because one of the big things you see throughout the game, story-wise, is because the Joker is he's totally in control of Arkham Asylum at this point. Yep. He takes down Commissioner Gordon. Mm-hmm. He takes down, I forget the name of the head of...
Quincy Sharp.
He takes down Quincy Sharp, so he has Quincy Sharp's office where he's able to talk to Batman at any time and show up on these video screens and whatever. Yep. And it's absolutely clear because Joker, Batman is obviously peace and justice, and Joker is just, chaos and whatever. He loves seeing Batman go through, so he'll, Batman will go into a place and take out 8-10 thugs, and, Joker will instantly get on there and be like, see, you took out my boys! Hope you hurt him real good! Kind of thing. And
he does this, and because he's Joker, he, like, nobody's like actually friends with the Joker. They might think they are, like even like Harley Quinn, who like has this on again off again romance with him. Like you can tell there's like no like Joker is his own being, and he never will like answer to anybody or like whatever. And like he in the process of like taking out his men, like when you get to an area, like he taunts his own guys. Like he's like, oh, Bats killed one of you, and he's like, and he'll start saying things like, I heard the Batman, like, eats his victims. It's like, don't worry about that, though. I'm sure it's not true. And, like, he, and then there's ones where it's like, I don't even think the Batman's real. Don't even worry about it. You guys are fine, and it's like, he's taunting his own men, and I'm like, Joker's just the best, and so to have him, like, constantly chiming in, and, like, so many times, too, like, you just hear that little, like, there's like this little 3-note ding, like where it's like boom boom boom, like to show that something, and then it's just like him, and then it's like so great, like because it's just like every like 5 minutes or so he's just chiming in to just complain about something or talk about this, and it's just like an excellent way of like keeping you like, oh my gosh, Joker, okay, like, and you keep wanting to like get him, like.
But yeah, the entire time, like you'll go into a room and you'll take out someone and it'll be like, hey boys, why don't you go check your numbers? And they'll be like, what? And the guys will be like, oh man!
Yeah. There's like, one of you died up on the walkway, or one of you got unconscious, he took you out on the walk, and they're like, hey, he's right, go over here, and like, the AI is very good at, like, for that regard.
Yeah, especially, this game
really
came out in 2009 originally, so that we'll go into that more in gameplay and everything, so... Throughout, I don't think we need to go into, like, every single, like, minute thing that happens, because it's a rather long game.
But as all good Batman stories, like some of the, like, some of my favorite Batman stories are, like, The Long Halloween, which is like an excellent story that spans over the course of like a year, but like it involves like almost every villain in some facet.
Absolutely.
And this is no different. Like as you're moving from like one area to the next, you know, some villain comes along and like you have to deal with them while you're trying to get rid of the Joker thing, but you also like want to make sure this person's taken care of, because obviously you can't just be like, oh well, I'll put them on the back burner. Like, so like every new person you have to deal with. And so it's excellent how they like, you know, you go through the story like that, you know, from one thing to the next.
And honestly, this sounds silly, but you would like feel what it would be like to be Batman, because you're like, okay, I need to stop Joker, and when I can stop Joker, we can fix up this mess.
Right.
But then like you go to the next area and it's like, by the way, Poison Ivy's out. Like you'll go into a place and you'll see all these plants and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, and this stuff keeps happening. You'll go to Poison Ivy's place and, you know, a guard will be like, you know, be like, Batman, you know, they took a couple of us hostage, you know, whatever. And it's Batman. Batman can't be like, I need to leave those guys. I need to leave those guys.
Yeah.
Go. It's just like, you know,
okay.
You know, absolutely go for it. And Joker, they do such a good job of like everything that happens. Joker uses Batman's inability to like let somebody die. So it'll be like, well, you could come and catch me right now. I'm free over here. But there's a bunch of guys, you know, about to be gassed to death over there.
Yep.
Make up your mind! And, like, of course, because Batman, or a Joker is the absolute opposite of Batman. He knows exactly, you know, what's going to happen there. So, yeah, you see some of the big guys you see Poison Ivy, you see
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow is actually one of the bigger parts in this one.
He's a villain.
We'll go into that in gameplay.
For sure. But it's like, as far as villains you actually fight, you have Scarecrow, you have Poison Ivy,
Bane,
you have Killer Croc, you have Bane, and Harley Quinn a bit. Like, she's at least there. You don't really have to like do too much, but you have to like, you know, you sneak in her area. You know, her area is kind of like a stealth part, but like she's a technical boss in that regard. But yeah, I think
so. They do a good job of setting up a bunch of the characters, but not making it all happen at once. There's still a guy you're like, you know, I didn't see Two-Face in this one.
Right.
And, you know, I know I didn't see,
there's
a
reference to him at the very end, you know, but you don't, like, so you're like, oh, I guess that's the next game. At least for me, like, that's what I'm assuming, because that, like, it just ends in such a great way. Yeah. Where it's like, you know, like, Batman's like, oh, like, because, I mean, it's literally, like, a long day of Batman dealing with this thing, like, on his own, basically, and it finally finishes, and then it's like, Harvey Dent as Two-Face has broken into the bank, and it's like, he's just like, I'll see you then, and then he gets in his Batwing and flies off.
And like Batman has to do everything in this town.
Absolutely.
So like, it's not necessarily that like these people like the guard Aaron Cash or like these guards or whatever are like incompetent.
No,
but it's like they're against superhumans. Like,
Absolutely.
like how could a normal human go in against Poison Ivy, even if she didn't have that like sultry kind of thing? Right. But the simple fact that she's like, do you want a huge 100-foot plant to like impale you? Great, it happened. You know, so obviously Batman is the only one that can do any of this, and throughout the story you're seeing that. Now, the big thing that happens is we get to find out sometime throughout the story, and you played this more recently than these, so maybe you can shed a little more light, is you find out about the Titan virus.
Right. Yes, it was kind of researched by Dr. Young, who was working with Bane. She basically took the venom that makes Bane into Bane. Like there's, you know, like a compound that pumps into Bane's like body to make him like massive, and she starts kind of researching it and discovers a way to kind of like amplify it and make it more powerful. She thinks she's doing it for the sake of science, doesn't realize that the person funding her science is Joker under an alias Jack White, which is like an alias he uses from time to time. And so she didn't realize it till it was too late, tries to back out, but with Joker you can't do that. So he's like, I've come for the thing I've paid for. And she's like, but I returned your money. And it's like, you think I care about money? Like, you're ridiculous if you think that that's something I care about. So then Joker releases it into like the waterways and stuff, and it gets into the plants. and Poison Ivy, it basically amplifies her power to like 1,000,000, so she's able to do crazy stuff with the plants, and that's what takes over everything. But also Joker, like kind of, like end game is that he wants like basically an army of Banes to just be able to run rampant. So like every one of these like inmates that's in his crew or whatever, he could shoot with this stuff and they would turn into basically Bane. I mean, Bane's definitely would still be a little bit more powerful just because he's like in control of it and that's his thing. Yeah, they'd still be like massive. And if you had like 500 of them, then it doesn't matter if you have Bane. Like you could just destroy everything. And that's all Joker wants. I mean, Joker just wants to destroy everything. Like he's not going to use it to like take over the Gotham and control it. He's not going to like try to get a bunch of money. He's not going to, and that's what makes Joker like the best villain or scariest villain, is because he does not want like anything. So there's nothing you could bribe him with. There's nothing you could, I mean, the only thing he wants is absolute chaos, and you can't bribe somebody with that. Like,
no.
Oh, well, I'll give you that. Like, you can't be like,
or you can't be like, how about some chaos?
Right. There's no reasoning with him. So like, he just wants it all to burn, and so, like, like, he basically releases it into waterways, and it'll eventually make its way to Gotham. So then it's like, he doesn't even have an army at that point. It's just everybody in Gotham turns into Bane. Like that would just be pandemonium. Like, because you would have some people that might maybe be using it for good, like, in the sense of, like, trying to protect the family or something. But, like, everybody would be massive, so they'd all just be smashing everything and looting and going crazy. And it would just be, chaos, which is all Joker wants. So that's basically what's happening, and you're trying to stop him from, like, that's why he got caught and sent to Arkham, because he wants to get his hands on the formula.
Which is there, because the doctor... Because the doctor works there.
So that's how she was working with Bane, because she works at Arkham. And so he gets his hands on it and, of course, causes a bunch of chaos. You stop most of it. But then he, at the very end, injects himself. And you get a cool ending boss battle against Joker. Because the fights between Joker and Batman over the years, like, Joker versus Batman just hand-to-hand is a no contest.
Right.
I mean, Joker is, like, a little bit wily and stuff, but he's not, like, going toe-to-toe with Batman. And so when you're leading up to this boss battle with Joker, because, I mean, that's what you assume is going to happen, you're kind of like, I wonder what they're going to do. Like, that's what I was wondering. Because, like, it's going to be a little bit anticlimactic if I actually have to fight Joker, because I'll just do, like, a couple combos and he'll be knocked out.
Yeah, it'll be like a quick time event and be done kind of thing.
So when he injects himself and becomes a big giant Bane-looking dude, but still looks like the Joker, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So, like, very, very cool. And all the boss battles have, and we'll go over it in gameplay, have cool mechanics for, like, how you fight. It's not just like, oh, keep mashing the square button until you win. Like, it's like, okay, you gotta think about it.
They all have their unique gimmicks. Now, one of the things that just draws me so into this series is all the small little details. Mm-hmm. For instance, you mentioned the final fight before Joker. So I laugh so hard at this in a way that only a Joker thing can. You beat, I think it's Poison Ivy, whatever your second to last thing is, and you're going through, and you know where you have to go. You have to go to, like, the madhouse or whatever, and you go there, and you check on your tech, and it says 20 unarmed hostiles, and you're like, dude, seriously? And you get there, and there are all these thugs clapping for you and being like, hey, bats, yeah, bats! And, like, you go up to them, and it's like, they're not characters that you can fight. Or at least I didn't. Because you can, okay. Yeah. Well, I didn't.
If you don't, they won't mess with you.
They don't. So what I did was I stood there for a while, and I was like, well, they're not messing with me. Clearly they're inviting me in kind of thing.
And so you went through. There is a small achievement trophy if you go in there and wreck shop. If you beat them all, you do get a trophy for having beaten them. Because you can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
So it's like that kind of thing where you, like, don't... Yeah, but yeah, it's funny.
So even something small like
that. They're all
that.
wearing hats. They're all... Because it's supposed to be your birthday or something, and it's like, hey, Bats, great job! They're just congratulating you. And there's, like, fireworks, like, to tell you where to go, which was, like, a cool little, like an extra little piece. Because one thing that was interesting was that you could go into that spot, like, because when you get out after a certain event... You get out, and, like, that was the cool thing about this. You could always pretty much go back to almost everywhere, and sometimes they were slightly different in whatever way. Like Like, because there's a lot of secrets in this game, and so you can go secret hunting, but, like, over the course of the game, the areas are different because of, like, whenever Poison Ivy gets the Titan stuff, certain areas you can't get to because now there's, like, these crazy gas, pheromone stuff, or the plants have taken over, or whatever, so, like, you just have to kind of, like, you know, go back at a later time, and then after you've taken care of something, and then you can get back to certain areas.
Or,
so
or you'll get a new tech, and I mean that's more in gameplay, but then you can go to a different place.
But like there's areas that are off limits at certain points of the game, and then aren't at other points, and so it's kind of fun to explore in that regard. But you could go into that room where Joker was with the TV on his head or whatever. You could go in there before the end game and actually just walk in there and you see him and he's like, oh, welcome. And he's like, well, you know, he makes some comment about, like, I think you have a little bit more work to do. And, like, and so you can walk in there and be there and be like, what am I supposed to do in here? And then you're just like, oh, I'm not supposed to do this yet. And then you leave and have to go deal with something else, like, you know, get Poison Ivy out before you can come back and actually, you know. And that's when he starts shooting off the fireworks and like, coming up on the thing. And he's like, great, congratulations, Bats!
And just small stuff like that makes me feel so... There are a few games where I'm playing it and I'm like... there are a lot of games I play and I enjoy. Right. But there are a few games that I play and get immersed into the world like this.
Absolutely.
Where you're just like, you feel... You're not even in Gotham. You're outside of Gotham.
Right.
But you're like, this is the world of Batman.
Yes, absolutely.
This is exactly how it is. And they have so many small things. Now, I don't know if we've talked about this before. I'm a big proponent of not having to do external stuff to understand a story.
Right.
A big example, I have a friend who's a huge fan of Dead Space, and I beat Dead Space 2 back in the day, and I was like, dude, I liked it, but I had a lot of questions.
Right.
And my friend's answer was, well, you gotta read the book. And to my answer, and my answer to that is, I don't gotta read the book. The book should be something extra that's like, oh, not something that's just like, well, you didn't understand the ending because you didn't buy the $15 book they had. Come on, you know. So
yeah, it's fine for a book to be like a prequel or a sequel to the story in the video game, but not actually necessary.
That you're like, oh, well, that's why all this stuff happened. The thing that this game and this series does so great is when you meet a character. Oh my gosh, I love this. When you meet a character, you get a bio. That you go to the pause screen and it's like characters, you get a bio, new bio, Quincy Sharp. And like, I'm not huge into comics. I love Batman, I've watched the movies, blah, 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 but I'll be like, Quincy Sharp, And it'll be like, oh, well, here's his stats, here's what he did, here's where even small stuff like, here's where he first appeared in. You know, Joker was this one that in 1944 that he was first in. And that's just, and like, you could just read like, you know, no one knows this madman's name, blah, 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 blah. And eventually I missed a lot of them, but you find these tapes of interviews that is done with the doctor who created the Titan virus.
Well, that's the Bane part is there's different ones for different people. And yeah, like Joker gets interviewed by Harley Quinn before she became Harley Quinn, and then Harley Quinn gets interviewed by I forget who. She might be interviewed by Quincy Sharp or some other people. I think there's Harley Quinn. You hear some stuff. You hear Joker. You hear some stuff from Stephen Crane, and he's awesome because he basically conducts a reverse interview where he's like, "How does that make you feel, Doctor?" Like, and it's like, you know, he's like, "Mr. Crane, this is my session," and it's like getting mad, and he's like, "Ah, yes," you know, like he's basically trying to be the psychologist. Riddler, Edward Nygma, like, you know, he's like getting frustrated at all sorts of stuff. Poison Ivy, you know, she has a whole thing and she basically seduces a doctor and stuff. And it's really like fun. Oh, Croc is being interviewed by, I forget who, but Aaron Cash is there, and it's like the incident where he loses his hand, like leading up to it and stuff. And so,
and he's just talking about like how I'm going to eat him and stuff like
absolutely.
that.
And so it's really cool, like how they like add that in to really add extra layers.
It absolutely could not have existed.
Oh, yeah.
They could have completely skipped that out and it still would have been a good game. Yeah. But it's that attention to detail, especially in the story, that you're just like, man, this is just wonderful.
Yep.
I guess we'll really... and then throughout the story, you know, you're doing all this stuff, and then like we were saying, like these people keep popping up, and then all of a sudden, freaking Riddler, he doesn't physically pop up, but you find a very easy to find Riddler trophy that you're gonna like obviously pick up, and he's like, bats, and like then throughout the time you're and again, this is more of a gameplay thing,
and it's fun because as you get them, he's making fun of you at first, like for the first like 50 or 60. Which are usually like ones that are like in your way that you would never be able to miss. Like you wouldn't have to actually look for it. He'll be like, he's like, oh, you think that's great that you found that one? I can't believe it took you this long. And he's like making fun of you.
Oh, you're up to kindergarten level.
Right, exactly.
Great.
But when you get to like the last 20, he starts getting angry and he starts talking about, what are you looking these up on the internet? Which I thought's a great line. And when you get down to like the last 10, he's starting to like lose it. And he starts getting angry about how you're finding all of these. And then there's this I don't know if... I know you said you did them for the one of the other games.
Knight. I got like 90% of them in Arkham Knight.
Okay. But like this one you didn't...
I did not.
Okay.
No.
All right. So this, again, doesn't need to be in there. Like, obviously... I'm a completionist, so I love to do the little collecting. I love to explore, whatever. So like I did collect them all, but when I got to like, I just thought if I just collect them all and I get a trophy, that's all. I mean, again, I don't play for trophies, but just that fun. It's fun to be like, I did it, whatever. But they added this extra little story content that they didn't need to do. Like you said, they didn't need to do this. But when you get to the second to last Riddler trophy, which like basically they include all secrets under this. So interview tapes fall under this. The little question marks, which are the actual Riddler trophies, fall under this. But like also interview tapes and like the Arkham like logos where you learn the story of Arkham like that as it happened, and you learn all these other things, and they're all included under these secrets. So there's 240 of them, I think, or something like that. So when you get down to the second to last one, finally Batman picks up his arm and he starts like doing something on something, and you see up on the screen it says triangulate Joker's Riddler's location. Because basically he's been talking to you throughout, making fun of you, and you finally have enough data where you have triangulated his location. And then when you get the very last one, he says like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He gets very angry about you finding them all, and it's like, well, since you ruined this game, he's like, I have an even crazier game that everybody will not... And then all of a sudden you hear sirens off in the distance, because Batman has sent this information to the police, and he's like, what police? How did you find me? And then and you basically hear him get like recaptured, because Riddler is not like he devises these crazy things, but when he gets down to it, a lot of and like this is the case for some Batman villains, they're able to be captured by just police, provided they're just them there. Like if they're surrounded by their army or they're like traps, that's when they're like safe. And so Riddler like was not in any way prepared for this. So like when they show up, he's just like, they just basically take him down and like, get down, and he's like, oh, and you hear it like on his side of the conversation, he's like, what? How did you find me? Oh my god, I can't, like, you'll get you next time, Batman. And it was like, that did not like, you know, the trophies finding them like was enough. They didn't need to add that, and then the fact that they did was just like, that's awesome. Like, that's just like a great... And so you just get the sense that there's like this guy, Batman, who's like dealing with all this stuff, and he's like basically multitasking at all times, fighting all these villains.
But not only that, he knows all of his guys so well that he knows that because Riddler is in the state that that's what he's doing, that he's going to be like open to arrest. So he's not just like, Batman would never send a bunch of police to a place where he's like, it's booby-trapped, you're all gonna die.
Exactly.
So he knew that because Joker was coming, or I'm sorry, Riddler was coming unhinged, that it's like...
Exactly. He's like, I know how to do this, and whatever. And it's just like, oh, that's just so great.
Yeah,
like,
I
love this.
So just overall, concluding story, they... Such a good job. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the characters all feel like Batman, the story feels like Batman. They go over they go they just over and beyond.
Absolutely.
There's just so many.
There's like, the other mini story that you get through it when you're doing the secrets is there's this like these Arkham logos, and you learn about the founder of Arkham, Amadeus Arkham, and over the course of the time, you find out that like he's basically was just this guy was like, I want to help people, and then was had his family brutally murdered by one of the inmates that he was trying to like help, and then of course like slowly descends into madness himself, and then at the very end it's revealed that this guy who runs is Quincy Sharp, basically is his alter ego, is this Arkham Amadeus Arkham, and he basically is like torturing the inmates. There's this like extra little thing that you don't really need to know, but like the very last one you find, he basically says like, he's like, I'm sure you know who I am at this point if you found all of my diary entries, basically. And if you go to Quincy Sharp where you last saw him, which was like in this control room, in the one room, there's like this giant logo for Arkham made out of just scribbling the word Batman over and over, and you realize that Quincy Sharp, who like was just like blah, 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 like he's like actually has gone insane and leads this double life of just being this like sadistic torturer guy. And so it's like a fun little thing they didn't need to put in, but again, they were just like anything else, like that's what's great about Batman comic like stories in general, is there's always side stories happening in every comic that like don't need to be there and don't necessarily matter for the major storyline that's happening, but they're there and they just add flavor.
It goes to show you how crazy it is. Like it's like, I finally got all these people and I got Joker, but it's like now this Quincy Sharp guy's out.
Now you gotta deal with this. Yeah, you're like, oh man, I gotta deal with all this stuff. So it's just like really just like well done to like, because basically when you play a video game, you want to get basically a day in the life of whoever this character is, and when they pick a character like Batman or like whatever, like a superhero or something, like there's this preconceived notion of like, oh well, I've watched movies or read the comics, so like I know what it must be like, and then if they don't deliver on that, like if Batman didn't have cool gadgets or like wasn't good at hand-to-hand combat or this or that, it would be like, oh, like you'd be let down.
Yep.
And this game does not let you down.
Yeah,
like, you know what it's like to be Batman.
I guess my last point is you don't have to be a huge. Sometimes these things take it where it's like, oh, well, you got to know this. You don't have to know. You can literally be like, who's Batman? Right. And like, you can be that. You can be that in the dark, and you will like learn everything, especially if you find all the stuff that you did.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, overall, just fantastic job.
Excellent.
I'm looking at a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. 9 out of 10 for story on this. I'm teetering. I gotta do a 9.5 because like I almost want to give it a 10 on story just because it's so well written. But like, I'll dock it a little bit because there's a few like minor things on my end. But like nothing that I'm like. I mean, obviously 9.5 is not bad.
Do you want 9.5 then?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 9.5 because I almost want to give it a 10 because they could have just been like, oh, a simple Batman story, but they did an original Batman story that I can imagine being in comic form.
Yep.
In all its intricacies. And if it would be like in the top 10, like, stories, Batman stories. Like, it would be up there, like, because it's so well crafted and all these parts. So, yeah.
And a 9 for me, obviously, is like absolutely excellent. So, I can't imagine giving a 10. So, or to anything, it would have to be like just the best thing of all time. So, absolutely amazing. Now, moving on to gameplay. Let's make this, again, let's take it down to simple terms before we continue. Batman is a sneaking game, essentially. Yeah. I mean, pretty much kind of thing going on.
As you go, you start to learn enough, like, combos and stuff that it does get a little bit of that, but... Yeah, for the most part, it's sneaking.
Yeah, and there's parts where you're like, you have to get into fights, like before boss fights, or you'll walk into a big gauntlet place and Joker will be like, I got some guys. And
usually when they're not armed and there's like 10 of them, it's like, okay, I know I have to fight. Like, there's no way to take them out silently.
Because Batman is not a superhero, not an humanly superhero.
He doesn't have superhuman powers.
You can die quite easily if you do not and it makes Batman has a really good suit, but could he take a shotgun blast to the head? Yeah. No, he's a person. He's a dude.
Absolutely.
So there are times you'll walk into a room and
basically if they have guns, like you will die quickly if you're not paying attention.
Honestly, there were times where you would walk into places and it'd be like eight people unarmed, and I would like just be like, nah, I don't feel like hiding in the shadows, and I'd go fight them, because you can, with hand-to-hand, you're good enough, because Batman is a master of all hand-to-hand combat.
Absolutely.
You can do that, but it doesn't matter how good of a hand-to-hand combat master if someone has guns, you know.
Yeah. And when there's like more than one, then at any point you're punching one, there's a guy with a gun who could just shoot at you. And they do.
And even at your most so that's a big thing to mention.
Yeah.
The leveling up system, pretty simple. You beat enemies, you do certain things, you find Riddler trophies, whatever, and you gain experience. When you get enough to get a level, you can unlock certain abilities.
Yeah.
So what I did was like literally the first 5 I got was I upgraded the bat suit, which gives you
me too. My first one I just maxed out the bat suit.
It's either more defense or more
basically hit points.
Yeah. But basically. I was like, well, that's key to me. And then eventually down the line you can this one it's not a crazy tree where it's like, oh, you have to have this to do this. It's pretty much just like...
You can unlock them all, but there's like a couple that are like the next level.
Yeah. But like you could be like, I just want to be, I'm pretty good at this game. I just want to make it like crazy combo tier. So instead of getting to level 12 in combos where I can start doing crazy moves, I want it to be level 5. So literally any fight I do, I hit him 5 times and I'm doing these crazy knockdowns. And it's very simple, and I think it works just fine.
Yeah, and they also, the one thing that I thought was really a good idea, there's not health in this game in terms of health pickups. They connect the health to the same experience as everything else. So, like, if you get beat up in a fight, the only way to regain your health is to gain experience.
Yep.
So, like, that's through picking up Riddler trophies or doing more combat, but doing it better so that you get more points than you do get damage, which I thought was really a clever way of doing it.
And it's not like a silly like Halo where it's like you just gotta hide for 30 seconds and then get your stuff back. It's like if you're in a battle or in a room, and essentially how the checkpoints work is if you're in a room and there's like 10 enemies, it's like you gotta kill all 10 of them for the most part, and then you'll get your checkpoint kind of thing.
Exactly.
But if you kill 9 and you die, you're restarting kind of thing, which
absolutely.
It's perfectly fair the way this game
it's
goes about it. It's not. I mean, there were some times where you're like, this is pretty tough, but
it's tough.
Each room is its own individual puzzle.
Yeah.
So you go into it. The big thing about this game is obviously because you have the bat claw, you're able to reach towards anything.
Yep.
So you walk into any room and you see these like gaudy gargoyle statues way up high, and you're like, cool. Well, that's my 1A,
right?
And I'm going to use that to its ability. And if I get seen for some reason and they know I'm up there, then I can go from there.
Right.
But each room is its own individual puzzle. And another thing this game does really good is it does a very nice learning curve where it starts out where it's like, just learn to fight, or then it's like just learn to hide from enemies, and then it's one enemy has a gun, and then it's a lot of enemies have guns, and then it's
then they have these collars. They have a collar that when you kill one, it starts going off.
Yep.
And then they all know he's dead. Because it used to just be like, I'll kill them one at a time slowly over the course of the map. Now you kill one and it starts going, meh, meh, so you can't hang out there anymore. You got to go hide.
And they get smarter as the start smarter go on.
Absolutely.
So like
they'll be like, watch your back. And
I'm sorry that I played Asylum and City, so if something I say doesn't happen, then you'll know a very, very minor thing. But eventually they start like knowing that you're up on the gargoyle thing.
Right.
So they start shooting them down.
Yep.
Okay, so...
Well, there's also a thing where in one of the rooms, it doesn't happen from that point on, but in one of the rooms, Joker has them rig proximity bombs on the gargoyles. So when you land on it, you have like 1 second before it blows up.
That's a particularly tough room because there's a lot of armed enemies, and you have to use something besides the sky. And the sky's the easiest part. If you can do that, a lot of times you can hang on one of those gargoyles, grapple down. You even have this cool inverted takedown where you can take them out and then like tie them upside down.
Yeah. And the other guys will find them.
And again, it's great because they'll walk by, they'll be like, oh, she's here, and that's that. I think
that's total Batman. I mean, that's always great. Like in the movies, they always have it where it's like dark, and the bad guys are like, wait, what was that? Yep. And then it's just like out of the darkness comes like this Batman. It's like, oh god!
And they do it so it's not like, and they just do such a good job of like ramping it up. So like you have that room, and then the next room might be like just something slightly different, where it's like I normally use the grates for this, but now these enemies have like these like smoke grenades that they can throw in there, and I'm like, like. dying on that, and it's like they just do such a great job of that. No, that's the standard, just normal gameplay. I don't think we talked about this. Arkham Asylum. This is more gameplay than anything else. Arkham Asylum itself is a big open-ish area where you have all these different buildings and everything. Right. Essentially, it's into like 4 quadrants, so you can be in like the mental health part.
North, east, and west so there's like 3. And then there's the underground area.
And there's underground, and there's some places, that are that cover in between, like little outside segments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you're going around, you can be in one of those big outside segments, and you'll see like different enemies, and I think this is this is a mixture of gameplay and sound, but you are just like flying around. And you'll just hear them talking about stuff, and wherever it is throughout the game, they'll start talking about like, I heard Batman beat Bane, and it's just like I can't believe it. Like, like, no, man, it's not gonna happen. Joker ain't gonna be taken down like that, and just that kind of stuff in general. You see the whole way throughout the game. So that's the majority of the gameplay itself is that.
Yeah.
Now
sneaking around, and then there's areas where you have like. Basically thrown into it with like 10 enemies, and you really have to like it's another form of strategy, because you're like basically at any given point you're like, who am I fighting? There's easy ways to counter, but like when there's 10 guys, they're gonna swarm you. It's gonna get tough.
In general,
like you have to manage who's up and who's down, and
you actually went straight into my next point. In general, combat is very simple, one button combat. You hit square to hit.
Right.
When an enemy comes behind you, at least on the mode I played on, I saw that eventually there's like a harder mode where it doesn't show up, and again, that might be City, but an enemy will come behind you. Their head. Yeah, and that'll mean that it's counter. You press triangle to counter.
Yep.
And
circle like kind of stuns them.
Yes.
So like certain enemies will have a weapon that's not a gun. Like they'll have like a stun grenade or a stun like rod. And if you punch them head on, you'll get stunned. Like, you can't... basically, if somebody's holding, like, a cattle prod in front of them, it's going to be really hard to punch them no matter how good you are, because you'll just get too close, you'll get stunned. So you have to kind of, like, hit them from behind. Some guys have knives, and they're really good at blocking, so they'll deflect your normal stuff, so you got to use circle to kind of stun them. And then you can do stuff.
And it's very simple, but for the length of game it is, which isn't... It's a good length of game. It's not... Action games like this shouldn't be like, oh, remember that 40-hour game you played? It would be ridiculous. Oh, yeah. But for the length of game it is, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get boring. No. Every
Because you learn new stuff so much that, like... Because you basically, at one point, you get the back claw, which is like a thing... Like, there's the zip line one that kind of you have from the beginning that lets you jump up to things. But the back claw is like how you can grab an enemy or anything and kind of pull it. And then that can get upgraded where it will shoot out 3 of them. And so you get to the point, like, towards the end of the game where you're able to, like, in combat, shoot out that and, like, yank enemies. And then you throw your boomerang, the batarang, and hit a guy and then jump over here. So you ended up doing so much that, like, you're like, oh, wow. Like, because you'd think, oh, all I'm hitting is square. Like, this is going to get boring. But, like, you start getting new stuff over the course of the game. They, like, give it out. They dole it out, and so then you get good.
They do a really good job of making these items feel like Batman. Like Batman would have this. Right. It's not a super crazy part, but the cryogenic defrequencer thingy.
Yeah,
you'll find a locked door, and you have to play this like little mini game with your thumbsticks.
Oh, so it's great.
And it's like. Is it the craziest thing in the world? No. But does it add something to an already rich game? Absolutely. And Batman would have this thing where you just mess around with it, and it's like, boop, unlocked, and you're like,
because it's basically what happens is you get Quincy Sharp gives you this key card, but like he's like, that's only half of the sequence. You need my biometrics, like my thumbprint or my retinal scan or something. And Batman's like, I don't need that part. He only takes the half and then is able to hack the other half.
Yep.
But basically, the thing is, like, and this is what's great, the security system in Arkham was created by Wayne Tech, which is obviously Batman, Bruce Wayne's company, but it was Lucius, who is like, if you've seen the movies, that's Morgan Freeman's character. That's his, like, tech guy who, like, does all that stuff for Batman. And he basically, like, came up with this, and, like, so it's like, like pretty cool because they kind of show that like Batman doesn't even have a back door for this. Like it's not like, oh well, it's a completely secure system except Batman has a special key. You know, it's like no, like Wayne Tech, like Lucius is a really cool like extra thing is that like no, Lucius is like no, I built this thing to be secure. No one can get in unless they have the criteria that's needed, and we have very strict, and it's on lockdown and all that stuff. So it's like you have to go through a bunch of work in order to be able to finally hack these systems because they're tough. Like it's your own system, but it's still that hard because it's like made by the best people. So like even Batman has a hard time dealing with it, and so it's kind of like a cool little extra thing that like it's like. This stuff's secure. Like, Batman's not messing around.
Yep.
Like, he's doing it the right way.
And sprinkled throughout all this stuff, you have essentially a mini collectathon kind of thing going on. There's a lot of secrets, which you would expect. I mean, Batman's kind of a game that's in Shroud of Dark and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can find. Ton of we talked about this already, but a ton of Riddler stuff, a ton of secrets.
Right. And because you get new items, there's new ways to get into new areas. Like, you know, like you get the explosive gel, and now you can get into rooms that have like a wall that can be broken. But then you'll see a wall that can be broken way up high, and you're like, well, how the heck do I get up there to put the explosive gel on it? Then you get this bat claw that you can pull it and smash stuff, and it's like, okay.
And it always just like a good like game like that. I was almost gonna say Metroid, but that's a 2D kind of thing. Game like that it gives you reason to go back and be like, you know what, I did see that Riddler one at blah because you know it was there. Absolutely. Kind of thing.
Yeah. And so you just get and one of the things that I thought was cool too was with the unlockables. Not only do you get a bit of story like we talked about in the story part, but you also unlock some cool things like character trophies, which like it's not much. It's nothing more than the like 3D model used in the game for like the cutscenes, but it's basically like static, and you can zoom in on it and spin it around, and it's a fun little extra thing that they didn't need to do, but it really lets you like look at these models because some of them are really cool. Like, you know, like some of the character design, like we talked about with Joker, like every piece of clothing he's wearing is like well thought out, and you can zoom way in and like look at like every detail of him, and it's really cool. Killer Croc was cool because you're like, oh man, or Bane, like, and you can see them and they're like, you know, like they're like animated in that they're like, if like Bane, like his veins are glowing or whatever, so like they do glow. So it's not like a static image or anything, but they don't, you know, they're not moving around. So you can really like, you know, zoom in and be like, what's Bane's mask look like in this, you know? And so it's like an extra little thing that, again, they didn't need to put in, but they did, and it helps you get immersed in the whole concept and story.
Speaking of Bane, you have, I made it like 50 minutes without doing that.
I was surprised. When you first said, oh, you fight Bane, like I was like, wow.
Sorry, I mean, I'm getting better.
Bane?
I made it 15 minutes without Bane.
Bane?
Dr. Lindstrom. I'm CIA. Okay. Anyway, so they expect one of us in the wreckage. So see ya. Anyway, so speaking of Bane, you fight boss fights. They're all unique.
Yeah.
They all have different things to them. The Bane / what do they call the guys with Titans? The Titans.
Yeah.
You know, have a general thing where they are pretty much unbeatable unless when they charge at you, you throw a bat claw.
Right.
Then
Batarang.
Excuse me. They can't see anything. They run to the wall, and then you're able to beat them up. But
that extra cool thing with the Titans is you can jump on them and control them.
Yep.
Which I was like, that's a great idea.
Yep.
Because at some point you're fighting two Hulks, and it's basically like two Banes, and you're like, well, dang, the Bane fight was hard. Now I gotta fight two of them?
But then you can use Hulk to fight Hulk.
Yeah, you jump on him and you start controlling him, and it's like, oh, this is fun. I'm like, this is a fun little
And they
thing.
do a good job with that in that it's not, like, super controlled, but why would it be?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
it's basically just Batman
the game controls, we haven't even talked about, the game controls very well.
Yeah.
Just everything feels right, but for that, it's, like, kind of tough, where it's like, go left, and he's, like, kind of going left, but it's like, dude, you're all on this 700-pound thing and trying to move it with just your arms, so like it kind of is what it is. And they all have unique different things you can do. The Joker fight at the end, essentially, and it's so Joker, like he'll like throw stuff and you have a bunch of enemies, then he'll turn around to the crowd and be like,
right.
"People of Gotham,
yeah.
you
He's
got
like,
me."
Basically, over the course of the game, you've been hearing a radio with Jack Ryder, and it's like, Jack Ryder on the scene, blah, blah, blah. And so then he's like, is that Jack Ryder's helicopter? Hello, everybody. And he starts up. And so when he does that, you can, like, pull him
You
down.
pull him with the bat claw, and you pull him down, and he gets kind of stuck in the floor, and then you beat him up and all that. So even like that. The only boss fight, and again, this is just because I thought it was a bit too hard, and I'm not really going to talk to him, is Poison Ivy.
She was tough.
Okay, good. So
that
wasn't
tough.
just me.
No, I'd lost a bunch of times.
It was... I played on normal, and it was tough, and it was long. Like, it was very,
Luckily, they give you a point when they give you your health back and a checkpoint.
Yes. Now, if you didn't have that, it would be,
it'd be impossible.
I might have quit at that point.
Yeah, right.
Like, and just been like, I'll watch the rest on YouTube. But it's very tough.
And, which, I mean, it makes sense. It's the precursor to the final boss.
It is the second to final boss.
And the final boss, for all intents and purposes, is not really impossible. Like, Joker is not that hard.
Right.
He's just a series of
fighting a bunch of enemies.
But also it's a series of, like, what I have to do in what order. Like, you start, it might take you a little bit to learn what to do, but once you know it, it's like, okay, I got this. But Poison Ivy's is, like, genuinely challenging.
Yeah, that one was. I'm glad that you agree, because I was like, man, I restarted way more times than anything else.
There was a lot going on.
It's tough, and it's, not only... again, because you don't get your life back during this, you have to, like, beat... She has, like, 4 long, cycles that she goes through, and you have to go through these cycles, which have very small amounts of time where you can throw a batarang at her, and even after that, it doesn't really do it, because you have to batarang her, then she falls down, then you, I think, explosive gel it, but that, that doesn't do it. And in the meantime, she's sending out all these vines at you. She's sending out all these people at you. And, like, you probably have 6 or 7 hits, and, like, that's it. So it's a very, very tough one. But, hey, I mean, the game isn't easy, but...
I mean, if it was an easy boss fight, it wouldn't have... Like, I mean, I feel like it was just hard enough. Like, I mean, because... with games with just games in general, like, you don't want it to be a cakewalk. Yeah. And with a game that was this good all the way around, I feel like if all the bosses were just like, oh, that was easy. Like, I feel like there's got to be a little bit of restart ability where you're like, okay, I'm learning it, and then I got it. Like, I don't want to play Dark Souls where I have to restart 1,000 times. But, like, I do want to have to restart a few times. Like, to just go through a boss battle the very first time and not have to restart, like, would be a little bit lackluster. Like, I mean, you might be like, oh, man, you're really good at games. It's like, it's probably the game's easy. Because, like, usually if a game's tough, like, it'll be tough. Like, if I get through it quickly, then the game's too easy. Because, like, I'm not, like, some high-level, twitcher. Like, I'm not beating games first try.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's noteworthy that it's difficult, but it wasn't so much so that you're like, Now, the final thing I want to go into the gameplay, because we've hit most of the just major stuff, is probably the coolest segments in the game, which is the Scarecrow segment.
Absolutely.
So Scarecrow is Dr. Stephen Crane. And he's pretty much a normal dude who has this powder / substance that hits your nervous... No, your...
Yeah, it basically... I don't know how it works, but it basically makes your fears
It's
amplified.
your amygdala or whatever, and takes any fear that you have. So
and amplifies it, and hallucinates it.
For me, I would just constantly see Rob Gronkowski getting like hit in the knees over and over again.
Brady,
Gronk out
Brady's
for the season. Is it? What happened to Brady's leg? Where is it? No!
His arm came completely off. Oh my god!
So that would just be. It would be like remember that Sunday night or Monday night Broncos game last year where it was like literally when they just like hit him in like the knees over and over, and I was like, I want to die. I want to die. I want to die. Okay,
it would also be like going into the store and there's already a line of people like outside waiting,
and it's like 9 a.m. and it's like I got work to do. Yeah, but I got these trades. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Can you open up early?
You'd be like, no!
So anyway, it takes all your biggest fears, and again, gosh, what a simple idea for a Batman. And again, this guy was made 50 years ago, but what a simple idea, and how just great, Yeah. And the way that they do it is so awesome. The first time,
I had no idea.
I know. So the first time you're in this morgue, and you're just like, well, this feels weird. I mean, it was where you're supposed to go.
They show him start coughing. basically.
Yes.
They show
Yes.
Batman cough, and you're like, that's weird. But you don't really think anything of it, honestly. You're just like walking.
So you're in this morgue, and like you're just like, this is where I'm supposed to be, but I don't know what to do. And eventually you open up one of the body bags, and it's your, or maybe I'm thinking of a different.
No, that's right. The first one, you're walking, and then you're in this room, and you're like, what's going on? And you go to leave the room, and it's the room again. Like, which was a cool little thing.
That's right.
So you're like, okay, I'm not supposed to be here, apparently. And you go to leave, and it's like you're walking into the same room that you just were walking out of. And you're like, okay, that's weird. And then suddenly there's body bags, and when you go to interact with them, it's your mom and dad.
Right, that's it. Okay. I forgot if it was him or his mom and dad.
And they're like, we blame you, of course. You know, and the one is like, the thing, like...
You could have stopped it, son.
There was like a cool thing where it was like, you already saw that movie, you wanted to see it again, and it was like, we're gonna, and you were like, oh god, Batman, I'm so sorry, because you're like, this is what Batman deals with all the time, is just him reliving his, like, parents' murder.
And before we go into the gameplay part of it, you see, you don't actually, you only see Scarecrow once, I think.
A couple times, but yes.
But I mean, like,
in real life,
see his presence.
Right, I think, like, maybe twice. Once... And then he gets away, and then one more time before you finally catch him.
You do his gameplay segments 3 or 4 times, something like that, throughout the course of the games.
Yeah.
And after the first one, they do such a good job of, like, you enter a place, and it's like...
Starts getting weird.
It's, like, very slightly off.
Right.
And you're just
there's one where, when you're in the mansion, you're walking down the one hallway, and you're hearing, like, the things, like, of, like your mom or your dad talking, or like different people saying they're disappointed in you. But what all of a sudden the hallway's like 1,000 miles long, where you're just like, it goes off forever, and then as you're walking, like it slowly becomes like the alleyway where your parents get murdered. So like you're walking in this like really fancy mansion, and then all of a sudden there's like a garbage can, and as you walk you're like kicking them out of the way, and you can't run, you're just walking, like, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and it just slowly descends into this like whatever, and it's so well done.
And it's so good, and like I said, it descends, like you don't just start off and it's like, I'm in this crazy world. It's just like, what? It's raining inside or something like that, and then you're like, I think I remember that being one of them. And then you're like, what?
When you're walking in the mansion, all of a sudden it starts raining, and you're like, because you're in the alleyway where your parents get murdered, and you're like, oh my gosh.
And it's just so, and that the lead up to it's so good. So the actual gameplay part for the Scarecrow stuff is essentially a hide and seek.
Yeah, so more sneaking, but like in a cooler. I don't know. So it's so different. It suddenly becomes different. A platformer.
Yes,
where you're like, oh, whoa.
It's essentially a 2.5D platformer where you're only moving pretty much left to right, although it does have 3D aspects. Yeah. Scarecrow's in the middle, and he's 1 billion feet tall.
Yeah, he's huge.
And
he has these eyes that glow, so it's basically like a searchlight. So, like, anywhere he's looking, if you are in there, if you're not behind cover, he's like, ha ha ha, I found you.
And you lose on that. Yeah. And it essentially becomes both a platformer and a puzzle at the same time, where, like, each part will be set up into maybe 12, 15 different parts. So you get past the first part, it's simple, you just run. Oh, but then there's an opening, what do you do? Well, you have to run fast. Oh, but then there's this part, what do you do?
You gotta jump up or climb up.
You gotta jump up, or you gotta batarang it, or you gotta whatever.
Absolutely.
And you just kind of go through that, and it's definitely, unless if you're like me, it's trial and error. If you're smarter than me when it comes to puzzles, let me think about this.
Some of them, there's like, it's, you figure it out by losing, really. You just kind of go, oh, okay. There's really some areas it's impossible to like just be like, I know what to do without anything. Like, you just kind of go, and then you're like, oh, I see what's happening.
And just in general, it's fresh. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but it's fresh. It's like, I just fought a bunch, I just fought this big boss. A lot of it happens after big moments. So it's I just fought this boss fight, and it's like, man, I hope I don't have to... a bad game would be like, there's the bats, you gotta fight 1 million more enemies, and you'd be like, oh, dude, come on. But like a good game, like a Batman, would be like, let's change it up a bit. Right. And they do that, and they do such a good job. So
really cool.
In general gameplay, obviously, we're all talking positives here. It's very good.
To just add it in, it didn't need to be there.
There's only one complaint I have,
fresh.
and one question I have for you, or one statement I have.
Yeah.
I play almost the entire game when I can in detective mode. Not even just in fights itself, just because it's like, it's prettier, like the blueness and the yellowness
Right.
and whatever. Like I like it kind of thing.
Right.
So I just wanted to point that out. That like even in parts where I'm just kind of going around.
find. I mean, the thing is, like when I would switch off of detective mode, I'd be like, oh, like it would be less jarring because like the problem with detective mode is you see through most walls when it comes to like enemies and stuff.
That is true.
So like you kind of lose perspective on like where an enemy is, even if you're in detective mode. Like you gotta go back and forth, but like I would find that I'd be on detective mode for a long time, but then I'd switch off and be like, oh, this is actually like certain areas anyway were like much easier to play with it off because you were like, now I can see what's around me versus like seeing through everything sometimes.
Essentially, detective mode is almost like an X-ray kind of mode where you can see enemies like through walls and you can tell where the enemies are.
Which is, I mean, it's absolutely necessary for the amount of sneaking you do. So it's really, it's a thing that Batman would have. So it's like cool, like it's really like, if they didn't have it, they would need to have some form of radar like they do in like
otherwise it would be impossible.
Because to have a sneak game, you need some form of like information so that you can like work with what you have. But yeah, like I personally tried to mix it up, but I could see there were times when I realized I had it on for like a long time because when I would turn it off, my eyes would take a second to adjust. Because they've been looking at just blue for so long that it's like, oh, geez, like it's like crazy.
So my only complaint about the gameplay, and it mostly happens early on in the game, it's detective mode in terms of battling and going and whatever is pretty cool. The detective mode that they have in terms of you like analyzing stuff is pretty lame. It's my only thing. So like you use it early on. I think it's Commissioner Gordon is taken.
Yeah, he's taken
and you're like
it was by a fellow cop. And you find out that he's an alcoholic, and so you analyze like a breath of alcohol.
You essentially make it a crime scene.
Right.
You find the alcohol. You find what the chemical compound is, and then you follow that chemical compound.
Yeah, because you can see his
and it's okay. I mean, the first time it's like, oh, cool, but then
Yeah.
you do it like 2 or 3 more times,
Right,
and
then you do it with like
some
Dr. Young's fingerprints,
and you do it with I think it's Quincy Sharp's tobacco, or maybe Gordon's tobacco. Right. So it's like it's like literally the exact same thing where you're just following these clues. And again, it's a cool idea, but my only that's like literally when I was thinking about it, I'm like, what's a complaint I have in this game for gameplay?
Right.
It's like, like the idea like a detective mode kind of thing, and without spoilers, and again, this isn't going to affect my gameplay rating. It gets a billion times better for like the detective mode kind of stuff. But for this, the way it's set up, it's just like I want to reanimate a crime scene, or like it's like you are the world's greatest detective.
Exactly.
And what are you doing with it? You're finding like alcohol in the air, and it's like okay, So that is like my legitimate only complaint where I was just like, okay, cool, it's another follow this thing,
follow this specific thing,
and it's just literally I mean, obviously, clearly, if you knew where if someone said, oh, the next place you go is here, you wouldn't have to follow it,
right?
Yeah. But like it's literally just
it's just a way so that they don't have to just straight up tell you, which would be dumb.
That would be dumb
because you're supposed to be discovering the stuff. But it was I agree. It was a little bit after the first time. You're like, okay, it's this again. But like you would think it would be cool like if you like followed a small trail to get to somewhere, and then used a new trail to get to somewhere else, and then but like something to mix it up a bit.
But this one was just straight up follow the trail. You're there. It's done. Kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
Okay, you're done.
It was just a way to get you from point A to point B. So I could see that.
Really, my only complaint about the whole thing in general, the gameplay's great. The combat is simple, but it works for it.
Yeah. I'll say that the combat's a little clunky at times.
Yeah.
At least for me in this very first one. Like, I don't know if it gets better, but like, there were times when like I was like getting frustrated with the responsiveness or for like what he was doing. Like, I would be like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing, and then like he just is not doing what I think that I'm doing, and I'm like, so either I'm really bad at this game, or like the game's not great at like what I'm trying to get it to do. There was some disconnect. I don't know. It wasn't like natural. Like if I play like another beat 'em up type like God of War or like Devil May Cry or something, I'm not very good at those games, but at least I'm like at least when I mess up, I'm like, oh, I see how I messed up. Like, I'm bad at this game. Whereas this game, the combat was so simple that I was like, why is this not working? You know, why am I messing this up? I feel like something else is going wrong, and it's not me per se, you know. So that part was a little bit like clunky, but like, you know, as it gets later in the game with all the extra gadgets, like you start figuring out a way to like, and like I've heard this as a complaint with like some other games too. Is like once you figure out your style of play to beat a combat, it's basically just you just go to your fallback combos, and then that's it. Like, you know, you might want to try to do, you know, mix it up, but if there's no like reward for mixing it up or anything, and there really isn't, like you're just gonna do what works for you, and you're just gonna keep doing it until it's done. And like, you know, in some games like that stays fresh enough, but in this, like, yeah, it gets a little bit like, okay, this combat, you know.
My only other minor complaint is in a game that acts a lot like a collectathon, it didn't give me a whole bunch of reasons to want to. Now,
right.
the thing you mentioned at the end with the Riddler is like cool, but that's the textbook example of 2017 and me being like, I'm going to YouTube that. Instead of literally spending 3 to 5 hours, like, just finding these things.
Exactly.
Like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like we said, we mentioned 100 times. It's cool how to, like, talk to you and taunt you. Yeah. But when I got to the end of the game and I only had, like, 50 out of the 200 or whatever, I was like, I'm not doing this.
Right.
And again, that's our differences in personality. Parker would get to that point and be like, I'm doing it.
Now, I'll say just going through and doing some slight exploration in each area, by the end, like towards the end, I was at like 170 or 180 out of 240. So like for me to go back and get the last few was like, okay, that's not so bad. But the other thing that was cool was I didn't end up, which I was impressed with 240, because like I remember getting 100% on like Vice City. And, like, I had to follow a guide for every little thing.
Those hidden packages and
stuff,
were
just ridiculous. Yeah. But, like, with this, you do uncover, after a certain amount of time in an area, you will find a secrets map, a Riddler secrets map. And question marks will appear on your map, basically floating around, so they're in this general area kind of thing. And I didn't end up having to look up a single one, which I was really amazed at. Like, I thought I would have to look up, like, maybe the last 5 or 10, just because they'd be, like, especially difficult. But, like, I didn't end up having to look up any, because they're either pretty obvious, but you just don't have the right tech at that time, or they're, like, they just take a little bit of looking around, but once you have, like, a thing on the map that says it's in this, like, 5-foot radius, you know, just if you look around that area for like a couple extra minutes, you will find it, which was really satisfying as a collectible thing, because like I like collectible things and that's fun or whatever, but like I love it if I don't have to look it up online, because then I feel like
what's the point?
Like because at that point I feel like I'm just going through motions, and it's like, why am I not just looking this up online? But like so I thought that was really cool. I don't know if it'll get better in the other games, because I'm sure they'll ramp up the collectible thing. So I don't know if it'll stay as easy as it was, but I will say that I didn't end up having to look any of them up, because they did give me enough information. So.
And that's probably just a different of personalities for us too. So like I said, like there are.
I mean, if I had a kid, like I would say, if I had a kid that was like, oh, you know, like I would find less time to do stuff like this. I mean, that's just the way it is.
I don't know. There's like for me a game like Banjo-Kazooie where I'm like, I am gonna find everything. It's like very rare, so I'm not gonna talk it much for that. And the very last thing is, besides the collectibles, I don't think there are a ton of side quests to do.
No.
Okay.
There is
some
as
stuff.
you unlock the stuff, there's the challenges, which is like,
and that's not for me.
If that's not for you, it's fine. But that is like a decent amount of gameplay that's still on this disc. But it's up to you. Like, it might not be for you, but that is a decent amount of things. There's things like basically there's like waves of enemies, or there's like a scarecrow area, or there's some other that's like a little bit harder. So it's like basically playing through areas over.
Yeah.
And they're harder, and they're separate from the game, and they're just like whatever. But like I will say I wasn't like all about the challenges, but it's a decent amount of content, and as you go, you unlock new challenges. You unlock the ability to play as different characters in those challenges. Like you can play as the Joker in the challenges, which is kind of a fun like extra thing that, you know, again, they didn't have to put in, but they did, and it's not terrible. It's just,
do you know that Joker thing was originally? Please correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube land. But I worked at GameStop back when this game came out.
oh, was it
it was either if you pre-order it or PS3 only for the first little bit until they came out with that Game of the Year one. So it was literally like play as the Joker in the challenge map. That's what you got for the because PS3 WB at the time had like all these like minor exclusive kind of stuff. So that's a small thing right there.
Funny.
And again, I appreciate what that is, but it's not for me. So if I'm grading it like for me as a fan of these games, and also if you look at my opinion as someone who's like, dude, I'm only going to 100% something if it really enthralls me. It loses a little. But overall, still very, very quality. I'm looking at an 8 out of 10 when it comes to the gameplay then.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm actually the same. I'm going to be 8 out of 10. I would go a little higher, but actually, when I'm thinking about the combat and stuff, like I am docking
it does get a
bit.
little clunky.
Yeah, like and just a slightly repetitive, like once you figure out what you're doing. But like I said, they mix it up so much with like all the extra bits of like the scarecrow areas, the like gadgets, and there's this and then that it keeps it fresh enough that like it carries me through the game. Like if they didn't have those parts, like if just the scarecrow wasn't there, I think mine would jump down to like a 6, because like some of the combat is just like, okay, I'm done with this. Like it's just like a little old or whatever.
Right.
But like, because they put so much extra stuff in there and so much like extra content, like I'm gonna bump it up to an 8. So I like that.
So that's through the meat of everything. Our last 4 categories, as always, are a lot quicker. First one, we're gonna go to sound, which because this includes stuff like music and the voice acting.
But the voice acting.
Let's start off right away and just say I don't want to make this one too long.
Right.
The voice acting is excellent.
Right. I mean,
they
basically got the majority of characters that did the animated series. So they got Mark Hamill back to do Joker,
who is what else can you say?
Joker.
He is Joker.
As far as voice, obviously, I would not want to see Mark Hamill play Joker.
It would be the worst.
It would be awful. But I've seen Mark Hamill play characters in other movies where he's just a deranged individual, and he basically channels Joker in some ways, and he's always perfect because he really nailed like Joker. Like in the animated series, he became Joker, and every time he does Joker's voice, it's gonna be good. Like he's just so good at it, and he's so like he just becomes that character, and it's wonderful.
Everyone, I love. So I haven't watched the animated series. Is the Batman the same?
That one I'd have to look up.
That's fine.
I think it might be,
he does a fine job.
Right. But what's Quinn? Harley Quinn is the one from the same one.
Gotcha.
Like, you know.
And just in general, I mean, without going into every individual character.
Kevin Conroy did Batman in the animated series, and that's who did it in this one. So yeah.
Okay. So in general, they're all obviously they're used to it. It's all really good. You feel like every character, even you know what? And again, this is another one of those things we're talking about, the attention to detail. Even the minor like police officer characters that talk to you, they're not like, whoa, Batman. They're like, oh, Batman. They almost had us there, you know. And it's like
cool
it's
stuff.
not an A+ person, but it's like a just fine person.
Yeah.
You know that
you can talk to a lot of people. You don't have to. It's not like Fallout or anything where you like have to talk to all these people. But like it's just like an extra little thing to like talk to them, and they're like, well done. Like Aaron Cash is like a cool character, like because you know he's like this badass dude who's like got his hand bit off by Croc. It's like, dang, he's awesome.
The sound in general, what this game does, when we're talking about sound, I'm always talking about the absence of sound. Like it's the best thing, but it is for this. Like when you're just outside. And it's got that like ambient noise going on, and far away you can hear these 2 deranged lunatics running around going, and then you hear dung dung dung, and then Joker pops on. It feels right. I don't need constant like walking around here and obviously when like a fight comes out, stuff. I couldn't. If you played the battle music for me right now, I couldn't tell you what it is.
I don't even know if there is battle music.
Maybe there isn't.
Like it's just like there's just talking and all that stuff. There might be something, but
it does what it needs to do. It doesn't go crazy on more. I think the majority of what we're talking about here is the voice acting. Yeah. And because there's other sound stuff, obviously.
And they get the best guys to do it. Like these people have been doing like the major ones. Joker, Harley Quinn, and Batman are all done by the people that have been doing it for years, and like they're great at it. Like they're just the best. So it was a smart idea to go with them, and I just think it's great.
I got nothing else to say on this one. They did a really, really, really good job. Again, it feels like you're in the world of Batman. Yeah. I'm looking at a 9 out of 10 for the sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might even go 10 out of 10 because the voice acting is just. Mark Hamill as Joker is just excellent, and the fact that like the thing is like when I would watch like animated series and stuff, you're only talking like there's only each episode is only so long, and if Joker's in it, he might like have like a couple minutes here or there. This is just like a ton of like all this time of voice, like because Joker keeps popping on the thing like all the time, and it's almost always like I maybe heard a couple repeated, but for the most part like they're all original new things that I hadn't heard before, which is like it's like playing Grand Theft Auto or something, and then the radio station isn't repeating somehow, like it's just new content. It's like crazy, like the amount of like writing they had to do for Joker in this is just out of control.
You actually have me now. When I go to bed tonight, I'm gonna have to put on like how like YouTube you can just listen to Chatterbox.
Yeah.
Now I'm literally gonna have to listen to Laszlo and Chatterbox.
Oh man!
Hey Laszlo, I want to talk about the aliens.
Wonderful.
So this is a talk radio station. We're talking about sports right now. Yeah. So anyway. Oh my gosh! So,
that is
but yes. As far as Batman, are you giving it that 10 on there?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go there because the sound in this.
I can't disagree with you. It's just my own bias giving 10s. I just can't. Like I literally can't.
Like I said, it basically they would have had to do something really bad with the like extra sound for me to have gone down just because the voice acting's so perfect.
Next, we're looking at the graphics and atmosphere. Now, the atmosphere looms large in this game.
Yes.
Not much else I can say besides the fact that it looks like I've never seen Arkham Asylum before this, but it looks like what Arkham Asylum would feel like.
Definitely.
This is another one of those games where it doesn't do more than it has to. Batman, if you would say, hey, here's this Batman game, it's bright and vibrant, I'd be like, are you sure it's a Batman game?
Right.
And it takes place at night, and there's a lot of the same colors and stuff going on.
Yeah.
But that's what you expect. If they were like, check out these crazy, things going on.
There's sometimes color, but it's usually like Joker having spray painted something with his green stuff, or like whatever.
And part of the graphics is how all the characters look and everything, which is fantastic. Yeah. Here's a small attention to detail that I think happened in this one and not in City is later in the game as Batman gets more and more hurt, his cape and stuff starts to get more. So like
he's
near the end, you're like
his cheek and
his cape has all these holes in it, and you're just like, oh wow, look at that, and this is what would happen throughout.
Because Batman hasn't gone like home at all in the process of this game, and you're aware of what all has happened from the beginning of the game. Like you've seen every fight he's been in because you've been there, and you he didn't like take a break. So you're like, dang, like he is just going this whole time. Yep. Like that's crazy.
And I guess just in general, they do another great job of setting the atmosphere. Yep.
I will say I was impressed with the graphics, but like again, this is the HD remaster. I just was like, dang, like this. I mean, like even separate from the HD remaster part, like I'm just like, this game came out when? Like I'm like, this game looks awesome.
Yep,
like
they did.
I'm really impressed.
And honestly, even back then when it first came out, it was impressive looking. Yeah. Obviously, the HD remaster will be great. There's the frame rate is rather good.
Yeah.
I love, again, there's no other game that has something that's like detective mode where you can just be like, they have to make this whole game, but then they have to make this whole game as if you're looking through it through like an X-ray vision kind of thing, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. Because it definitely changes what you're looking at, like as you're looking around. So like they have to keep that in mind as they're making this game, which is impressive.
Yeah,
like, for
yeah.
sure.
So just in general, I don't have too much else to say in this one. Most of the stuff we went through already. I'm looking at an 8.5 when it comes to the graphics.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. 8 point. Actually, I'm gonna go down to 8. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was excellent. Like,
especially again.
My only negative I'll say is just that you liked being in detective mode, and like I didn't love it when it was on, just in terms of like it was all like it was all a little too boring. Like I couldn't tell what was going on. So I like to switch back and forth, but because of that, like you made it difficult because you like to find, like, because I was secret hunting, so you did have to use your detective mode a lot more than I would have liked, and also like it hurt my eyes to switch back and forth too much.
That's probably where the 0.5 difference comes, because I love, like, I was running through the hallways and I was like, boop, detective mode.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it, and also like when you beat the enemies and they're just skeletons.
Yeah.
I that was something I never got tired of.
Yeah,
like, it was just pretty funny. So
and
like,
also you gotta go hover over them and, like, some say unconscious, because it's a nice little extra thing, because like Batman never kills anybody, so everybody that he has taken out, it'll say unconscious. Anybody the bad guys have taken out says deceased, and so it's like a fun thing. And like when you're talking about earlier, when you're talking about talking to all the guards and stuff, if you go back, like those same guards will be dead. Like you'll have talked to a guard like up in the the guard tower like earlier on, and he'll be like, I was told to come here, and it's like, yes, just stay here, and I'll, this is the safest place for you. And then you come back, and that dude's like straight up dead, and you're like, dang, that's crazy. I'm like, these people, like, I'm like, that's some fun attention to detail.
I know, I noticed it as well. So getting into the final two, we're sitting at fun factor. I got to admit, I had fun, but there were times during this game where I was pretty frustrated.
Funstrated.
Funstrated. Yeah,
I'm having fun, but
that's a great way of putting it. Again, sure. we talked about how they do such a good job of switching between all the different things. Fighting and then sneaking and fighting and then sneaking. There were times where I'd be frustrated, and I think that's just something that happens in any sort of type of game like this.
Yeah.
The combat does get a little frustrating, as we mentioned before. The fact that you can like fly between all these different enemies, like literally like just like almost flying across the screen,
right,
is cool, but can also get frustrating. Where you're like, oh, come on,
because you didn't want to hit that guy, and you're jumping across, and you're like, okay, I can't control this the way I want to. Or whatever.
I'm also going to dock it a little bit because I really, upon playing it again, as I mentioned before, I did play this around-ish when it came out, maybe a couple years later. I wanted very badly to 100% the game, but I got to dock it because I didn't. Like, I literally was sitting there and was like, I really want to do this. And then I was like, I can't get myself to do this.
Right,
like, I can't.
Right.
I can't wake up next morning and be
like... It was clearly not fun enough for you to go through that.
Yes.
Yeah. Some games, it's like, oh man, like I don't mind this because I'm having a good time. But like if you're not having a good time, then it's over.
Yeah. So like I said, it's the thing that shines with this game with me is the storytelling and the characters and the sound and what's happening. In general, there are times where it does feel clunky and you're like, nah, not so fun kind of thing. Yeah. So again, I'm still looking higher than average on this. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 when it comes to the fun factor.
Yeah, I mean I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because I personally did want to collect the stuff. Like I was enjoying that. The reason I'm not giving it a little higher than an 8, is that what I said, 8?
Yeah, 8.
Is that again the combat got a little boring, and and because the combat was a little bit boring, I wasn't as drawn to like the challenges and stuff. Like I played them a little bit, but like I wasn't like like it's like like if there's a there's challenge modes in like other games that I'm like that I jump at the chance at because like it's fun gameplay to begin with. Like if Doom had more challenges, I would enjoy them because I was like really enjoying the gameplay. But like with this, I was like trudging through it as it went on. Like the sneaking was still pretty much stayed fresh throughout because there were so many different ways to sneak that I did stay pretty happy with that. But the combat, whenever there was like a bunch of guys on the screen, was just like very tiring after a while. So
And a lot of these later parts, they would just send more guys in, and you're like,
oh, there's... And like I said, that, I mean, obviously you didn't have to, so there was no reason to, but I did start, like, once I didn't realize till after that those guys wouldn't have fought me. My assumption was when I first walked into that one room, I think I just tried to fight one of them, or I used the Batarang or something, and they start, and then you're like, hey, and they started fighting. My assumption was that if I went to go walk to the end of the room, that the room would have been locked, and Joker would have been like, haha, and they would have fought me anyway. So it wasn't until after I beat them that I realized that was something that I didn't need to do. But like, that ended up was a lot of restarts, because I was like, there was a lot of dudes in there. There was like 20 guys in there. And it was just like, ah!
That's so funny. For once, me just being like, hello? Like, just like worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I that was, so it, like I said, it would have been higher if the combat would have been a little bit more fun. But yeah, it was a little boring. But
so the last one that we have going on is replayability. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is when I did play this game back in the day, I don't know what... I guess it's honestly because the fun factor wasn't super high for me. I got like 70% through. Oh, I know what happened. I was playing it. For some reason, I started on 360, and I was playing on a friend's 360, and I got like 70% through, but then I didn't have access to that 360 anymore for whatever reason, and I did not finish it. So one of the main reasons I want to start this again, I was like, I want to finish it. I want to see how the story goes and everything, and I'm glad I did, because, I finished it, and that was one of the pining things where I was like, I ended up only getting to the part where you, like, first find Poison Ivy, so there was a bit left to do, 30% of the game.
Decently.
But now that I've beaten it and I know the story, I have no burning desire to play it again. I mean, this I'll give away my score right now. Normally, I would say a 5, simply because I have no burning desire at all. But I wouldn't feel physical pain. Like anything below a 5 would be like, do not make me,
exactly.
Like, please. If you were like, play it again,
right.
I'd be like, nah, but you're like, do it. I'd be like, all right, But I did eventually play it again, and I wasn't like so against doing it that I was like, I can't do that first 70%.
But to be fair, you didn't play it again because it's like to play it again means that the first time you got through the story.
Yeah,
basically you played half of the game a second time. But the thing that was driving you was the fact that you really wanted to play that second half once.
That's true.
So although it is not really like you played it twice, because so I'm saying, like, not that I'm like, oh, you didn't play it twice. I'm just saying, like, you can't, like,
I see,
if the story wasn't there, you wouldn't have played it twice.
I see your point on that. I was saying a 5 at first. I am gonna bump it to a 6 because I did. I think this happened before for Revelations 2. I was like, I would never want to play it again, but I did.
Right.
So by essence, I cannot give it a 5 because I literally have played it twice. So
right.
I'm gonna sit at a 6 just because of that technicality.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna put it at a 6 as well, in the sense that, like, I would never play this game again, except if somebody was like, if somebody was interested in Batman and didn't like playing games for themselves and wanted to like watch the story, like, I would play through it again, like, for them or something. Like, I could see that being a thing that I would do. I would never do it again on my own, like, ever, because it's like, the story is the story, and there was nothing in the game that would make me want to do, like, New Game Plus, even if that was a thing, which I don't think it is. So, like, I would probably give this a 5, except that the story was interesting enough that if there was a friend who was like, oh, man, I really want to see that Batman game story, but, like, I'm so bad at those games. Like, I would agree to play, as by proxy or something.
I mean, you would have a decent time doing it.
Because I would know everything, and I'd be able to get through the story quickly, and I would be able to experience that story again with somebody else. And experiencing a story again, like, if I show somebody a movie or, like, whatever, like, it's exciting. Like, even if I've seen the movie before, like one of my favorite movies of all time, Scott Pilgrim, like, when I show somebody that movie that has never seen it, I get excited. Like, I get excited to watch it with them. Or, like, Shale and Soccer, some other of my favorite movies. Like, I'm like, this is going to be fun. And I'm, like, excited to see their response to certain parts And it's
are you one of those guys that just goes
yeah,
and just stares at them the whole time?
Did you see that?
Hey,
oh, watch this part. Oh,
this part's the best. It's the part where no.
I'm not that bad, but I can see myself doing that with this game, so I will bump it up to a 6.
So, first of all, if you heard over the last couple minutes any like minor bumping or clicking, I normally don't use the mouse during this, but I forgot my phone upstairs, people. I'm sorry. We're all human, and I don't want to divide an odd number by 6 in my head. If that's okay. So a couple mouse clicks.
What was your major?
Really
makes me think.
Let's say business.
It was business.
Business. That's why I'm good at this. So, overall, if we're looking at scores, dude, we always end up at the exact same thing.
That's amazing.
47.5 for me overall, divided by 6 is 7.9. Yours came to 49.5, which divided by 6 is 8.25.
All right.
So, technically, good lord, technically still, by a little tiny bit, Life is Strange was an 8 and an 8.3. This is a 7.9 and 8.25. Wow. So technically, Life is Strange is still the best game of all in our thing.
That's amazing.
No, but this goes to show you this is exactly what I would have thought I would give in it. Again, right. Our scoring system makes perfect sense.
Right.
It's like every time I'm like that makes sense that we would give it around an 8.
I mean,
because
the thing is, like, in and of itself, if you're looking at it as itself, like, to compare games like apples to oranges
is silly.
Is stupid, and you're never gonna like have a good time doing that. Like, you can't be like, like, which do you like better, pizza or Chinese food? Like, it's like, well, dude, I like them both. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm not gonna tell you that. Like, you could be like, how good was that pizza? All right, I can talk about that. But it's like, which was better? Well, dude, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I just like following because it's funny because eventually we're gonna find a game that's like somehow we get to a 9 rating. Like I don't know what it's gonna be,
right?
But it's gonna be like a 9, and we're gonna be like, did we say anything bad about this game the whole time? Like,
oh no,
like no, it would be like we were gonna review this in a podcast, but we couldn't stop playing it. Like we just kept playing it. Hey, when can we get together to do this, dude? Listen, no, it's like. Message seen 2:30 a.m. Oh, sorry, man. I was playing whatever. I just got off. I'm going to bed. So try to set up tomorrow. Continue.
Sorry, man. I can't. I think I'm not going to do the podcast anymore because I'm just too busy with this game.
Just in general, an 8-ish sounds perfect for this game. It was such a beautiful endeavor. It's such a Batman game. Mm-hmm. A little flawed in terms of gameplay and stuff like that, but in general, it really
the story and the acting make it just wonderful.
And for any of you interested out there, although it might not be our next episode, we are going to start working on. I've already played it again. But Parker's going to start on Arkham City, and we'll be doing that sometime in the near future, so we'll be going that. And again, this is going to be so hard. This was hard for me because I played both of them right back to back. So when I was talking about it, I was like, must only stick to Arkham Asylum stuff, because it's tough, because they are very similar games.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. I mean, fix the few things.
Fix the few things. We'll see. Maybe they do that. But in general, it was a great time. I agree with him. I wouldn't play it again unless maybe someone was like,
exactly. That's the thing. Yeah.
Can you play it while we're hanging out or whatever? And then I'd be
something like that.
All right.
Like I wouldn't turn that down. I guess is why I had to give it a little bit higher, because like I wouldn't be like, absolutely not. If somebody asked me to play RA6 again, I would never. I would say no.
Yeah.
Like
watch it on YouTube. Watch it on YouTube.
I'd be like, F you. Get away from me. Don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
Get out of my house.
What are you doing in my house? I'm just a huge Resident Evil 6 fan.
And I was wondering if you'd play it again for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in general, that's...
I'll say this. If I was in a Saw movie and Pinwheel was like, play RE6 or cut off your... I would already have cut off all my limbs before he even finished the sentence. I'd be like, I'm already limbless. What do you want, Pinwheel?
I'm a little like he would be like, cut off your and I would like let him finish. Like if it was like play Batman or cut off your, I'd be like, even if you say hair at this point, I'd be like, well, I'll play Batman, But I'd be like, cut off your Oh, right arm? I'm kind of right-armed. I'm kind of right-handed. Can we do left? Can we compromise?
Yeah.
You know, that would be...
RE6, I would have already cut off all my fingers and been like, I can't play now, Pinwheel. You lose! I cut off all my own fingers. I bit them off while you were talking because I was worried you were going to make me play RE6.
Cut off... I want to play a game. Cut off your butt. Already done. I don't need that anyway. Great. I don't need to sit. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, we're good to go. Now that should be a one of our hot takes is would you rather blank
Right.
than play RE6 again?
Right.
It's like I absolutely if there was a scarecrow thing, mine would be the worst because my only huge fear is heights. I hate flying.
Yeah.
I hate heights. Friends, I've had friends go to the I think it's the CN Tower in Toronto, and it's the one where you go up to the highest, and then it has the glass bottom, and you can just see the whole way to the bottom. Like literally, you would have to be like, "Here's several $100s," and I'd be like, "Eh." So like even looking at the picture, I'm like. Ugh, like I can't even play like a game where it's realistic of you like being very Dying Light when we played Dying Light and you were at the very top of the I was like
I remember that
slightly uncomfortable.
I remember you.
I was
you
like
were like this is not great.
I was like slightly
this.
uncomfortable. So it would be like parachute from a plane or play RE6. I'd have to like think about it because then if I survived the parachuting, I would be kind of BA. I'd be like, well, at least I did something great with my life. And if I died, I wouldn't have to play RE6 again.
Either way, it's a win.
I'd be like, well, do you want to play RE6 again and waste like 3 more weeks of your life? I'd be like, man, but it's like, well, listen, there's like a 95% chance your parachute will work.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. But it's like
people parachute all the time, and
most of the times they don't die. Most of the times they're okay. And I'd be like,
but 100% of the time that you play RE6, you will have a bad time.
And that would be one of those things that if I did survive, I would like not be able to not talk about it.
Oh,
I'd be like, hey, you know that thing that I hate doing? Oh yeah, heights. Yeah, dude, I like parachute. Like a free frame.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
No, I chose to play RE6 again. I'd be like, oh, sorry. Sorry to hear that, man.
So that'll be our fresh new take. It's like, would you rather? Hey, I just cleaned out my my oven and got all the stuff that I found from it here. Would you? Oh.
Would you eat it or play RE6? Well,
how fast can I eat it? Will it take 3 weeks to do?
Can I drink water while I do it? Like start negotiating just to not play RE6.
No, you can only have this very nasty water that I use to clean it. I'll take the water. All right, so that's it. We'll see you guys next time, and we will once again find whatever episode we do.
Absolutely,
we will find a way to incorporate Resident Evil 6 in it because that's.
And also, I just want to plug. Please check me out on the unofficial podcast, where I give a good review for RE6 on the unofficial podcast.
That's got to be the worst podcast of all time.
Oh, it was a troll.
It's even longer than a normal episode. It's like a 2.5-hour episode where it's like, here's why everything is
I
great.
sang all the praises for it on the unofficial podcast.
I really hope that you brought a concrete timeline of all the events, and you're like, so I sent this...
I made up a PowerPoint.
My friend is a visiting professor at Harvard for quantum mechanics, and I sent him this.
He was able to figure out how it works.
and it was all great. So don't check that out. Only check out the official. Thank you for watching. See ya.